G'day everyone. Sorry, I was just checking my stream quality. Looks like it's going okay. Jeez, it's all over the shop. Hang on. Let's do that just in case. Yeah, hopefully it's okay at your end. All right. Interesting. I always say interesting day because it always is. Kind of way I look at the markets, but at the moment, obviously, we still haven't we've got a bit of a slowdown in stochastic momentum. But BBWP is still high. It's not looking like a great candle here. Prefer to see a pretty decent green candle the upside. One thing though, global liquidity has taken a slight tick up today. So that is a good sign. If we tick up and we follow through to the upside on global liquidity, that could push us a bit higher. If you didn't see the video yesterday, the second one, go and watch that. It gives you an idea of what to look out for the overall cycle top. And it's all around global liquidity. So still wary that we might have a pullback sooner rather than later, because there has been such a divergence in liquidity versus actual price on S&P 500 in particular, but Bitcoin as well. Generally, if the liquidity isn't there, the markets can't go up for very long. But I'm expecting this to be a retrace rather than a start of a bear market. But yeah, until we sort of get a tick to the downside on this, then it's hard to confirm that we're actually going bearish, that we've actually reached the top. But this isn't a very nice candle. Bitcoin can do this to us on runs. Like you can have funny little red days, and you can have a candle that looks like this at the bottom of a run as well as a reversal candle. So I have to wait and see where this closes. I'd like to see it close green. If it does, then that's going to be a lot more positive, because one of the things here, this cyclic RSI, typically when it's coming down and you've got the bottom band is above 50, it's getting pretty close to the top. So what I'm hoping for is basically we do come down. Either the two options I'm hoping for are either we come down and we actually turn around and move back to the upside. You'd be looking for a break above previous highs to really confirm that turnaround. If that happens, then yeah, it's likely to keep going up, especially if you've got support from the energy side of things and your ATO indicators on the positive side. I'm not expecting that big of a run percentage wise, but it's kind of what you want to see. The issue is though, once we do get quite high on that bottom band, you can tend to see quite a bit of sideways action or pullbacks in particular. This one here actually was more sideways, but at the moment it just seems like we're kind of running out of steam to a degree. On the 4 hour though, this is looking pretty nasty. If this 4 hourly candle closes below these wicks, then I'm kind of expecting a bit more downside. There's not a lot to hold it up, really. You may get a bounce around the midpoint of this candle here. Maybe. That would be kind of the ideal scenario. Maybe a 105, low 106 sort of area. And we actually continue up from there. Bouncing off the mid band is quite common for the cyclic RSI. That's one of the reasons I like this. It kind of gives you multiple levels to be on the lookout for. But we have had a little bit of bearish divergence here. What I'm kind of looking for is more of a bearish divergence. It's not a particularly strong one at the moment. The trend is essentially still to the upside. Even if we pull back a little bit more, it's still, there's still potential for more upside. The only thing is at the moment, this energy level here, the blue line on this one, oops, blue line on this one is pulling back. That does quite often align with not necessarily pullbacks, but fading moves in particular. But when you've got momentum to the downside on the cyclic RSI and your ATOs turning to the downside, there's a pretty good chance that it will actually pull back further. The key is if this ATO closes below a value of 1, then it's even more likely that we're going to correct even further. So kind of a couple of key levels to watch at the moment. If this breaks to the downside, then it's a pretty good chance that we've reached the top for the next few weeks. Bitcoin can turn on a dime though, so let's just have a look at the other stuff. Another reason why I think we may be getting close is some of the alts have actually started to follow. Only a little bit, not huge percentages, but they have started to at least move a bit. And some of those moves will be breakouts of key levels. I'm not going to go through all them today, but still a lot of red, and that's still suggesting we're getting close to the top. But it's kind of, the other thing that concerns me is Ethereum's breaking down as well, and Ethereum's essentially putting in a double top on the 4-hourly and probably the daily as well. Yeah, that looks nasty. Ethereum does not look great. Yeah, the fact that Ethereum's pulling back with it, not a great sign. We need something like a Sol to really break previous levels and actually confirm a higher low and then a higher high. If that happens, then alts will probably follow, like most alts will follow. XRP actually looks good at the moment, good-ish. Not a great candle. If this candle could close above this level here, that would be a hell of a lot better. If it doesn't, I'd be a little concerned that we're moving to the downside. Certainly a lot of stuff is trending to the downside on XRP at the moment. Just need this to sort of rip past that and head off. In which case, XRP you'd almost think would hit $3.90 if it does run. Yeah, like a lot of them are getting close to points where it would be a good base. some of them are not. Render is pulling back harder. We are below that bottom band now, so see, once that happens, you can get some pretty decent runs to the downside, but need to find some support off this pivot here, which has been a buying level for Render. Hopefully, maybe 1 or 2 days down on these and then a bounce. They all still seem to be in like an accumulation type area. I'm not seeing any major signs yet. I'm seeing initial signs of a potential top. I'd like to see confirmation first before I just dump out everything. I'm not in Bitcoin at the moment. I did pull everything out of that. But I am in some alts which aren't, the more recent ones aren't in profit. So I'll be looking to cut the losses if they don't follow through, if Bitcoin does roll over. But yeah, not a great looking daily candle there. I'll just quickly go over to, so volume leaders. I'm not sure what the thing was I was looking at the other day, but this looks completely different to what I was seeing. There might have been some errors or something in the reporting on this, but still getting a lot of big trades at the highs here. I do expect that these are fair bit of profit taking on volume as well. Yeah, it does look like IBIT is suggesting that we're at a top. Coinbase shares are, they're kind of strange on the dark pool activity. Kind of looks like there is still some longing. Oh, excuse me, some longing occurring, but it's kind of nothing. It's kind of hard to tell on that one at the moment. Just zoom out a little bit and see what the deal is. Yeah, my internet connection's shit today. Sorry if it's bad at your end. I think Windows wants an update and it's probably protesting. Yeah, it's strange we're not getting any buyers in here. Well, it's not strange. It kind of confirms that we might be getting close to a top. ProShares Bitcoin strategy is getting some decent trades at the top as well. Now, this on energy is a little surprising. I thought energy would have more in it to run to the upside. Just going to zoom out to 30 days. Yeah. You don't normally, these aren't normally sells, so not at these levels. Be nice to see a decent buy down the bottom there, though. The reason I'm interested in that is if energy can't recover, then yeah, it looks like we might not be done yet. Kind of looking for recovery in energy to suggest that we've bottomed on the markets, or at least on the energy market. It'll probably run while S&P pulls back. But that's not a great candle on the 15-minute there. That 15-minute closes below here. That's basically a confirmation of a breakdown. You might see a little bit of a retrace back up into the 200 EMA, back up into 105,700. But if it doesn't break essentially straight back through that 200 EMA on the 15-minute and continue to the upside, then downside is a lot more likely, and potentially even to 102. Fair bit of orders. There's a fair bit of buying orders in here. So we may not have seen the bottom yet. Sorry, the top yet. There is still a chunk at 110. And we got to 108,500. Normally you would stretch to 110, and not seeing a huge topping signal in here. Obviously, nothing compared to this one. And open interest is still high. It's not necessarily increasing too much, but it is still high. So, yeah, it looks like this could just be a fake out, a liquidity grab. We'll have a look at the liquidity in a sec. Cumulative volume delta was still going up, but on the spot CVD, it was actually coming down, and it's still trending down. So it's still on spot price. There's still more sellers than there are buyers, and that's, I guess, concerning there. Suggesting this is just being pushed by leverage at the moment to the upside, which will tend to unwind pretty quickly when it does, if it does. We are getting a bit of buying coming through on this dip, which is good. There was a fair bit of selling across the top here. Yeah, open interest looks to be dropping on at least the coin glass indicator. It's interesting with some of these data aggregators, they can get quite different results. So liquidations, looks like it's running for this liquidity here. So maybe down to 1045. I don't think it'll leave this here though. So we may have actually seen a little bit of a bottom here. Typically with liquidation levels that are that high in volume, that are that close to price, it'll normally come back up and take them. In which case, it's just a matter of, has it grabbed enough down here yet, or does it want to go a bit lower before moving back up? In which case, I would expect it to come up to the 110 at least. So this next week or so is going to be really interesting. Like it's these sort of signals you get at the top of Bitcoin. Typically, you get pretty decent swings in both directions. You'll grind up a little bit, but generally decent swings, just liquidity grabs, pushes higher, sucks more longs in, pushes lower, sucks more shorts in, and then it'll try and take them. So yeah, 105, 200 is a pretty decent level, but it's just a matter of when this will stop and does it bounce with decent volume. There's still hope for this candle yet, but it really needs to come through with the goods. Big divergence between CME and spot price, or futures markets, the other sexes. That's actually a good thing. Suggests we may not be done yet. This could just be a retest of this EMA, which has held price pretty well on the runs recently. So yeah, it could just be liquidity grabs, bit of fake out action going on here before another run up. I guess they're the things to look out for. Like a closure below this EMA here is going to bring us back down a fair bit on ETH, probably back into the value area. High or potentially even into 3,500 level. Shorts were increasing a fair bit too. It's not huge, but the shorts on Bitcoin were popping a little bit yesterday, which normally suggests you might get a bit of a pullback. Nothing major yet though. There's no huge shorts coming in like we got here, but just something to be mindful of. The longs have actually increased on ETH. That's a good sign. So the fact that people are willing to go long on this dip is definitely a good sign. And they're still taking profit at these highs. So it'll be interesting to see when they start actually ramping up again. And that's another reason why I think we're in the death throes here. Like whatever we get out of Bitcoin in the next week or so, I think it's going to be all we get for another couple of months. Yeah, you'd expect that. It'd be great to break below these levels on a close. You would expect more out of Bitcoin if we did that, but at the moment, this looks like a bit of a distribution or accumulation of USDT versus Bitcoin. Distribution of Bitcoin. Total crypto. Actually, we're increasing BBWP. If we do see a downturn in stochastic momentum, I think it's going to be a pretty decent pullback. Like it's going to be that 30% sort of pullback that we've been talking about. So if you're well and truly in profit on things, then it's time to start taking some. I think if you get a little bit more out of it, if you leave some in and get more out of it, then that's great. But profit in the hand is worth it at the moment. Nasdaq had a interesting day. It had a big open. On the futures markets. So for some reason this seems to have gotten a pretty massive after hours push on it, which could just be to suck people in. If we gap below this, it's not the end of the world because it will come back up at some stage and fill that gap, but typically that will lead to a pretty quick move to the downside. Island reversals are not to be messed with. Interesting, the minis very different price action. What did it hit? So we have hit the 22,000. Equal weight is still pulling back though, so kind of need to wait for equal weight to reset on both of these. That suggests more downside on S&P 500. It's hoping for a bounce there, but that's all you can say really. It looks like more downside for S&P 500, and this down day is probably just the start of it. Although we could get a little tick up just to close that gap there, and then move to the downside. Man, futures, the minis went nuts on CME. Big gap up on the minis, but they've come back through the day. That's strange. There's some weird shit going on. Russell, it looks like a breakdown. Vector candle there though. I'm surprised today's isn't a candle actually. Slightly not enough volume. Needs to bounce here. Needs to bounce off this 50 EMA, which it has in the past. Been a pretty good level. Might do a bit of sideways action until the FR still churning to the downside. This is where once these do bounce, you're probably going to get a lower high. And that's when we're going to be looking at further downside, I think. Equal weight, XLY, XLP ratio is still elevated. It hasn't started pulling back yet. That's a little surprising. It's suggesting more upside, but the markets aren't really doing that at the moment. So it's such a bizarre situation. Oh man, home construction is getting slammed. This is actually, just wanted to think about that before I said it, but this is actually suggesting when we do bounce, so the FOMC might actually come in and drop interest rates by 0.5, surprise the market, and 0.5 is potentially going to surprise the market to the downside, but it might be good for home construction. So this is a pretty extended run to the downside. You're looking for it to find a bottom pretty soon, and interest rate decision that would help home construction is probably on the cards here. Same with home builders. It looks like it wants that 200 EMA. What you don't want really is this thing to play out too soon. Maybe a bit more of a run back up into this level, 121, before then coming down. Semis didn't break out. No confirmed breakout of this level here, so it's not looking great. DJI and DJT gold suggesting downside on the economy in general. Not really confirmed yet, but not looking great. Again, hammered. VIX has spiked, so interesting to see where the VIX ends up, where it turns around. It looks like it wants to go on a run though. Interestingly, today the skew is to the upside, but yesterday it did get slammed to the downside. So that's suggesting more upside tomorrow. But this market is so all over the shop. Some of these indicators just aren't. Like the market's denying them at the moment, which typically when that happens, it's not that the indicators are wrong, it's just the market's being a little bit irrational, and then when it does move in the direction you expect, it moves pretty hard. Ooh, UK 100 not looking great. Back into the 200 EMA looks likely. Japanese market will potentially follow into the or out of the bullish control zone. Need to see BBWP start to spike up before you get too excited, but I would expect downside on the Japanese market today. TLT, I mentioned this looked like it might be a good spot for a turnaround to the upside. And I stand by that today. It's still looking that way, which is because these are starting to find some resistance. The 2-year and the 10-year. A lower high here would be generally good for the markets though as well. So these markets are all over the shop. This bond indicator is still elevated. Looks like it may want to turn around to the upside too. So again, it's just this market is wild at the moment. High yield junk's probably the biggest concern at the moment. The rest of the other bond indicator hasn't really dropped too hard yet. I think these are Aussie bonds. Yeah, ASX. Yeah. So that's interesting. Still kind of in this channel for high yield. I'd like to see it bounce and the market to continue to the upside. Like this market could just keep ripping shorts, just short squeezing for another week or two. But man, the correction at that point is going to be pretty significant, you would think. Copper and gold are kind of flat. Nothing really to report there. I mean, gold's double top here. You'd kind of expect gold to come back into this level. If we just measure this out from open to closes, pretty much back into the bottom level here. Might do it fairly slowly though too. Silver kind of needs to find a bid, and it has left a vector candle up here, which I do think it will go into some stage soon. Oil's still kind of struggling to confirm this breakout. I'd like to see oil get above 71. Yeah, Dixie's looks like it's putting in a lower high. Kind of want that to be the case at the moment. Japanese yen looks more like it's confirming a turnaround at the moment. Yeah, I think that would suggest that the Japanese are going to increase their interest rates. Euro struggling. So global liquidity is up slightly on where it closed. Oh, it's about flat on where it closed yesterday, but Thursday, 20th of November. Anyway, it closed slightly higher than it did the day before. Still in a downward trend, but stochastic momentum has just flipped a little bit to the upside. Yeah, you kind of want this to swing back to the upside if you want the markets to generally pick back up. So it could happen soon. That's not great, but not the worst thing in the world either. It just means the market is generally correcting at the moment, even though the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq don't look like it, and the Mag 7 doesn't look like it. The rest of the market is having a correction. So it could be a pullback in time, essentially, that we were talking about the other day for Nasdaq and S&P. But these things are getting pretty overextended now. Mag 7 looks set for a pullback, although I'd kind of expect Tesla to hit $500, given how close it is. Interesting sweep on Nvidia too. So it's closed that gap, fully closed that gap. It's just whether if it holds that 100 EMA, which I don't think it will. I mean, it would be quite bullish, but at this stage, Nvidia still looks like it wants to pull back. Google, pretty nasty topping signal there on Google. RK, I don't know why, but that channel has seemingly moved somehow. Weird. This was at the top of this inside channel before. I don't remember touching it, but anyway. Still suggesting there's a little bit of risk on. So Apple's definitely bouncing off that trend line there. Apple's going nuts. Don't know that the underlying in Apple really suggests it should be doing that. Same with Amazon. I think Amazon's just going on off the back of the Black Friday figures. There was pretty big money spent there. Meta should be pulling back a bit more than this soon, I think. Momentum's ticking to the downside. It's not out of the bullish control zone yet, but it's coming down pretty hard. AMD is still struggling. Do you kind of expect some of these to start to find some bids? But like AMD could come down quite a bit more. There's a vector candle down here too, but kind of want to see a bit of upside action and then lower highs forming, and then you're pretty assured that we're going more downside. Airbnb, yeah. This market is just all over the show. Aussie market got a bit of a bounce. Could actually go back on a decent run here. Nothing confirmed yet, but looking okay. Resources have been slammed. Obviously, copper and gold and stuff aren't doing great. That's probably why. But yeah, all right. So unfortunately, Sol's kind of still undecided at the moment. Really need some money to start moving back into some of these alts. That's a pretty decent bounce on silly agents, the AI sector. Yeah, that's about it. Need to get a decent bounce reasonably soon on Bitcoin, I think. Lower time frames. What are we on? 15-minute here. Getting overextended to the downside on the 15-minute, so it's not to say it won't go further, but yeah, at the moment there's potential for a bounce on the 15-minute. It's just doesn't look super likely at the moment. Yeah, it looks like it actually wants to continue to the downside, to be honest. Need this next candle to sort of close quite positively. If it's another red candle, I'd actually expect further downside. 104,500's a potential bounce, but probably not, to be honest. I think it would continue further. It's a pretty decent double top here. Yeah, probably into the 103, 103, 200-ish. Which surprised me a little bit. If it does that, it's leaving a fair bit of liquidity in here that it would normally take in this level. No real vector candles, but there is a vector candle right at the top here. So as we speak, it looks like it's trying to close above the 200 EMA at the moment. So see what happens there. it's a really iffy point at the moment. There's going to be some pretty big swings in both directions, I think. Take some profits if you've got them. Be careful of major breakdowns and fast breakdowns. But yeah, at the moment, may get a bit of a bounce here on Bitcoin.